Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. I'm your host, John Nerrill. This is the show for mid-career professionals who feel stuck, undervalued, or unsure what's next, and know that doing more isn't the answer. Here, we focus on how you show up, how you make clearer decisions, build influence, and take control of your career. Let's get started. Today's episode is not entirely about mid-career. In fact, it's more about what happens after mid-career. And yes, we are going to talk about retirement. In 2026, retirement can mean many different things. And today's guest will share his mid-career journey, the legacy he's created, and how he's leveraging his experience to write his next professional chapter on his terms. Today, you are going to meet my book editor, bowling teammate, but more importantly, someone whom I am honored and proud to call friend, Rich Lucey. Rich Lucey is the founder of Prevention Enrichment Services, LLC, and has more than 35 years of experience at the state and federal government levels working to prevent alcohol and drug use and misuse among youth and young adults, especially college students. He most recently served as a senior prevention program manager in the Drug Enforcement Administration's Community Outreach and Prevention Support section, where he planned and executed educational and public information programs, evaluated program goals and outcomes, and served as an advisor to the section chief and other DEA officials on drug misuse prevention and education programs. Rich also served as special assistant to the director for the Federal Center for Substance Abuse Prevention and worked as an education program specialist in the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Safe and Drug-Free Schools. In 2024, Rich was awarded the National Prevention Network's Award of Excellence at their annual conference in recognition of his national efforts to prevent drug use. In 2026, NASPA, Student Affairs Administrators in Higher Education, recognized Rich for his outstanding service and dedication to the field of prevention in higher education. This episode is all about building your mid-career GPS with greater intention to get you to retirement and what that means for you. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Rich Lucey. Rich, my friend, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, John. We've been talking about doing this for quite a while. I'm glad that it's finally happened. And I know it's a bit of a departure from your typical theme.
Yeah, we're going to get into that today because as I said in the intro, we're going to talk about retirement today. You know, the kind of part about what happens after mid-career. And for so many mid-career professionals, they know that it's coming, but we don't really address it on the show. But you and I know each other so well. We've followed each other professionally. We're friends and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to bring you on for the very simple fact of you've got an amazing career story. And while we normally start off the podcast with talking about, what was your mid-career moment? What I want to ask you was, what brought you to this decision to retire after a 35 plus year career in government?
Yeah. It was an intentional move. First of all, let me just say that. And I know intention is such a key word with you and with your clients, with myself, when we talk about different things. And I had reached a point where I had the years in service. I had more than 20 plus years of service. I hadn't hit necessarily the age requirement yet to get full pension. And so this past December, I hit that age, 62. I'm not afraid to say it. It's just a number. So at 62 years old and with well more than 20 plus years in government, I just knew it was the time. And there were things I wanted to do. I have looked around and seen people who kept working their regular full-time job, if you will, well into their 70s. And that's not judgmental for those people that do it, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to retire when there was still time, if you will, left to do the things that I wanted to do, while also still contributing to my field.
Mhm.
And so that's what went into my decision. It was not, I've had people ask me, because I was a Fed, were you forced out? Was this because of Doge and all the stuff that's going on, kind of in an environment? No, it was not. This was all me.
Yeah.
And-
And Rich, I remember our conversations too, that when you had kind of set your sights on getting to 62 and retiring, that was very clear. There was no hesitation or doubt
Mhm.
about it. But there was also that something else, right? That thing that you get to do in retirement, both personally and professionally.
Mhm.
And so talk to us a little bit about what's next for you professionally in retirement, because you're certainly, quote unquote, not working. You're just
Mhm.
doing something a little different, per se.
Right. I knew that I still, even though I was going to retire from my 35 plus year in both state and federal government, in the field, I keep talking about the field. Let me explain for the listeners what that is. My whole career has been dedicated to preventing alcohol and drug misuse among youth and young adults, specifically college students.
Mhm.
Um, Highly challenging, extremely rewarding. Um, I knew that I still had something to give to colleges and universities, community-based coalitions. And so I thought, well, I'll do what so many others do when they leave government, whether it's in retirement or just leaving in general. I'll start up a consulting business.
Mhm.
Uh, no idea what I was doing in that regard. And you talk about hanging a shingle out, kind of that's what you do virtually. Um, Word of mouth has been primary marketing at the moment. I got to tell you, just in 3 short months of retirement, I've got 2 clients with 3 in the works. I mean, that's like, wow, okay, this is really going to happen. Um, but as you know, and as I'm learning as I go along, man, there's a lot to it. Between the business side of it, I live in the District of Columbia in DC. So they're setting up your tax issues and getting a license to have a business, virtual or otherwise, in DC. Um, and Promoting it, and getting the word out. And I've said time and time again, look, I did not leave a full-time job to retire into a full-time job.
Mhm.
And so that's not what my consulting business is. It's really working when I want, for whom I want, where I want. I mean, it's just the freedom,
Yeah.
which is pretty nice to have.
Mm.
So I'm enjoying that.
Well, we've talked as well too, but one of the many things I admire about this step for you as well is that you have never treated this like a hobby, or as
Mm-hmm.
some people will say, a jobby,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've done all the things to set up your consulting business as a professional entity, to really build out this consulting business in particular the way you want it on your own terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such a smart, and as we said earlier, a very intentional move, because this was done with a lot of thought,
Mm-hmm.
not just kind of like, well, I think I'll just see if I can get a speaking engagement.
Right.
You have such a robust network, 35 plus years in government, all your work in prevention, your network with higher ed. Talk to us a little bit about how you approached networking during your career, especially at mid-career, and what made networking work specifically for you.
Yeah. Let's just get one thing crystal clear from the beginning. I hate networking. I mean, I do.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
No, I do. I own it. Um, and I understand it's a necessary part of the job. But here's why I hate it. There is a personality test. You know it. I know it. Many people out there will know the Myers-Briggs. And there are a whole bunch of questions on it, and you end up with a 4-character personality. And the first letter is either I or E, introvert, extrovert. I am by far 16 out of 17 on those questions an introvert.
Mhm.
People are amazed when they find that out about me, especially the people in the field, because they see me in meetings. They see me up on stage delivering speeches or presentations. They may have seen me on stage in my other dream, which was performing in musicals or cabaret acts. That's what my theater major was in college. What people, it's hard to explain, but when you are on stage, you are another person in essence. And so it's a lot easier to come out of your shell. Um, when it comes to networking, I say I understand it's a necessary evil. That's what I just call it. Um, but it is there. It's a mutual beneficial situation. Um, throughout my career in, a state agency and 3 federal government agencies, I always worked for an agency that had things to offer for the field. And it was my job to not only promote what existed, but learn from the field what they needed. What could the government agencies develop for them? The only way you can do that is networking, and then ultimately, one of your favorite phrases is intentional conversations. So, I mean, I I really did recognize the importance of it. But if somebody said to me, "Oh, we're going to have a networking event," I wanted to run screaming from the room. I just it really just my pulse rate, you know, little beads of sweat, whether you could see them or not. The butterflies, I just felt like it was forced socialization, so to speak. And for an introvert, it's just really hard.
Rich, I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate you sharing your thoughts about networking, but I know so many of my listeners will appreciate that as well. One of the things you briefly kind of touched on was that you have a theater background, you have a
Mm-hmm.
performance background, and
Mm-hmm.
there is this misnomer, and I know this as well too, that just because you perform or you're up on the stage, that you have this magnanimous personality that you can walk into any room and you're like, I'm here
Mm-hmm.
and come talk to me. And you and I are both not like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would tell you that from a very early age, I my dream was to be on Broadway, singing, dancing, acting. Um, and life has a way of twisting and turning, as we all know. Um, but I got to tell you, even though I have found ways to still be able to do that during the past few decades, the lessons I learned as a theater major are with me every single day that I'm in my professional role. You learn deadlines, you learn self-discipline, you learn how to be a team.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, there is a part of me that um, I've never met a stage I didn't like. um, but you also learn there are times that you are the leading role, there are times you are supporting role, and then for our Golden Girls listeners, there are times you're a non-speaking townsperson.
Yes.
So you knew we were going to get some of these
We
pop
had to
culture
drop
references
something.
in
Yeah,
there. Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, I mean, and I think that goes back to how people are surprised, why people are surprised when they hear that I'm an introvert. But what my career has given me is a different stage to be on. This national stage to focus on and talk about something I'm really passionate about, which is preventing drug use.
Yeah. You, throughout your career, Rich, you have had an opportunity to speak on many stages at many conferences.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the many things you are truly exceptional at. We've been doing an arc on this podcast recently about increasing your visibility and how your work doesn't speak for itself as a standalone. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to
Mm-hmm.
advocate for your advancement and for your career. And what that means, especially for the people listening, is that they have to find a way to not simply just show up, they have to find a way to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
Given all of your public speaking and your theater background, Can you share with us one tip that you could give a mid-career professional who perhaps maybe is struggling to speak up in a meeting or wants to be a little bolder and put themselves out there for more visibility, be it speaking at a conference or maybe even delivering a keynote?
Mhm.
What's one thing you have in your toolkit that you think would be really valuable for them to hear today about being a better public speaker?
I'm going to drop another pop culture reference here, because I've been thinking about this a lot since I retired. Um, and it's advice that I give to folks, and it's going to paraphrase Hamilton just a bit. But that piece of advice is make every room you're in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
Now, um, speaking up and advocating for yourself does not need to be the big, broad Ethel Merman type of we're really going into these theater metaphors now. um, um, it doesn't have to be that big, bold, and brassy. Um, and it does take time. Um, you need to continue to learn when it's appropriate, how to be respectful, how to be civil in doing it. Um, and you know what? Sometimes it doesn't happen in the meeting. Sometimes it happens after the meeting in what I call a hallway conversation. And it could be with the CEO or a VP for student affairs if we're talking colleges, or a colleague, and just say, I really wasn't sure I wanted to bring this up, but can I float it by you? You know, it's always find your ally. You know, we talk about in our field, we talk about allies and champions a lot. Um, I think finding your ally and bouncing ideas off them first. But I think the first time you speak up in a meeting, it's always hard.
Yeah.
But I think once you do it, it becomes a little easier. But mistakes can be made along the way. Sometimes you say things that go completely counter to what management wants to do. And then all of a sudden you're not seen as a team player, right? I've had that accusation against me. You know, I was just, spitballing and brainstorming ideas in a meeting, and yet because it wasn't in line with what management wanted to do, all of a sudden I was tagged as, well, he's not a team player. Yeah. So, advocate for yourself. You just hit it right on the head. But that takes practice, just like everything else.
Yeah.
Just like everything else.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. And so that's so much of what we talk about here is, as you know, because you listen, and it's just about, how we show up in these kind of ways that truly protect and promote our brand and our career.
Mm-hmm.
In your retirement, you received some accolades. You had some great mentions from colleagues. And in this space, we often say is you got a lot of flowers. You received so many congratulations and things like that. And even though that government chapter, if you will, is closed after 35 years, and you're building this consulting business in your retirement, for so many mid-career professionals, Rich, I want to just put a spotlight for a moment on professional legacy. That moment when you do get to retirement and you look back and you think, okay, what am I known for? What do people remember? How would you describe your professional legacy today?
I did not set out to build a legacy. I've always felt that if you do your best, if you're ethical and honest with your career, throughout your career, your legacy will, in my opinion, build itself. I've always felt that if you are mindful, and we're going to keep coming back to that, synonyms for intentional, about the courses of action that you want to take and that are appropriate for you, the legacy that you build will stand on its own merit. Going back to the theater, you hear from actors and such, they're not in it to win the Oscar. It's a nice recognition, or the Tony or the Emmy or the Grammy, nice recognitions. But as I retired, both leading up to the actual date, January 24th, I had the opportunity at a professional conference that I've given a lot to over my career and being recognized by them. And then, of course, my retirement celebration at my last federal agency. You know, it's like being at your own wake in some respects. And it's sometimes extremely hard to hear all that.
Yeah.
I know that if I'm introducing somebody at a conference, a speaker, a lot of times you just hate the bio part, and especially if you're going through like 4 paragraphs of bio, you know. But I also learned very, very early in my career, my mentor's mentor then, who I also knew, she was the head of the department that I worked in. She was very big on people receiving and accepting compliments. Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't want to hear you say, oh, it was no problem. If you're given a compliment, I want to hear you say, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, lots of tears were shed during those moments, happy tears. But I also think it's reflection. I mean, when you look back on all that you've done and people recognize and appreciate what you've done, and that, again, was part of my legacy. That was what I wanted to do, provide resources to people out across our country in their prevention efforts. Every time I developed a resource, it was with intention that was going to help people. And then when you learn that it did, you know, that is a pretty joyous moment.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah. And Rich, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question, because for so many people who listen, they have teenagers, they have kids who are getting ready to go off to college. Mm-hmm. And there's the worry and the angst and the fear, and are they going to be okay, and how do they be safe, and everything like that.
Yeah.
In your work, especially in prevention, what advice would you give to a parent of a soon-to-be college freshman to help them make sure they're making the best choice for their kid and the college and the environment and the culture and all those kind of things? Because so often, as I imagine, we think so much about academics, we don't necessarily bring up a conversation about prevention. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would you say?
So, first of all, there is a myth that by the time students get to college, prevention efforts are wasted. It's too late by then. Absolutely 100% false. I was part of a survey that we did in my home state of New York early in my career. And what we learned then, 25% of students who did not engage in alcohol abuse or drug use in high school did when they got to college. 25%. Going to school, college in particular, can be risky. It's a risk factor, especially if it's deemed a party school. Mm-hmm. Depending on the norms of that campus, the first 6 weeks of college are among the most risky for a student. Their newfound independence, they're making new friends, new social groups. They're making lots of decisions on their own. Some of those decisions aren't great. So here's my advice to parents. First of all, before they even decided what college they're going to, when you're in that phase of you're going on the college tours mm-hmm. and looking at prospective schools, ask the person who's leading your group, what is the culture like on campus when it comes to alcohol and other drugs? And secondly, what's the school doing about it? Now, the sophomore, junior, senior, likely a student leading you on the student group might not know. Ask them, who can I ask? It's like in the health center or student affairs. So ask the school what it is they're doing about it. Second of all, stay in touch with your child. Obviously, FaceTime, video chats, it's all great. Just do a check-in, see how they're doing. Pick up on the cues, be observant. But it is not a time to just say, I'm done. There you go. And in this current environment, I don't want to get all talking about drug use on this podcast, but I will make a pitch around fake pills and illicit fentanyl right now. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. So we always advise people, don't take anything that hasn't been prescribed for you by your doctor and through a licensed pharmacist. If you think you're getting a Percocet from a friend, unfortunately, we're seeing too many statistics. 63,000 plus people in the past year died of an overdose or poisoning, and it was because of a fake pill.
Yeah.
So I just be diligent, parents. And it starts actually when your students are juniors in high school. Looking to college. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
That's my PSA.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, Rich, as you look back a little bit on your career and everything you've done, what advice would you give someone to help them build their mid-career GPS?
It is the same advice I give to colleges and universities, community coalitions, workplaces in their prevention efforts. Things do not happen by random. Things don't happen haphazardly. So you need to have a strategic plan. And so for people that are deciding, what's my next career move? Do I even need to make a next career move? Maybe I need to make a move within my current job, just in my outlook or my approach or how I work independently or as a team. It's be strategic, be intentional, and be purposeful. I just feel that, don't make a rash decision because those don't always work out, when it's a decision made emotionally. Mm-hmm. Sit down with a piece of paper and do the old pros and cons list. That's not a bad thing, but overall, just be strategic in what you're doing. Just make sure that what you're doing is with intention and with purpose.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rich, tell us a little bit about your company, where people can connect with you, and more specifically, what are you doing in this next chapter?
Two things.
Want to find you.
Yeah. So two things. There's two companies.
Okay.
Coming out of the pandemic, I kind of put my toe in the water with some freelance business, which I was able to get approval from my federal agency for outside activity. And that was my proofreading and editing business. Over the course of my career, and it was because of my first job as the secretary to a communications director of an agency, proofreading and editing ended up being a real skill of mine. I didn't really know I had, but boy, did I hone it to the point that I got to more or less be kind of a de facto chief editor, in each of my jobs. So Captain Red Pen, it was a moniker placed upon me by my most recent supervisor. And so I know you'll put this in the show notes, but I do have a website, for people that are looking, whether it's term papers, books. I was honored to edit your two books.
Yes, thank you.
And it was a great experience. But CAPT redpen.wordpress.com. That's where you can find that business. Easy enough. So if you have any editing or proofreading work out there, happy to do that for you. For the prevention consulting business, prevention enrichment services, and in a cheeky little bit of pun way, the rich is in capital letters in enrichment. My online presence is building as we speak. One thing I also, going into retirement, I wanted to just take it slow. I was under no pressure to get everything launched at the same time. So right now, through LinkedIn and my email address, rluceyjr@gmail.com is how people will find me around that. But I'm slowly building up my online presence. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I feel no pressure. People ask me about that. What are you going to do when you retire? And so that gets to your other part of your question. I said, you know what? I'm not exactly sure, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think people have an expectation you have a plan. Yeah, I plan to binge a lot of TV shows and catch up on some movies I haven't seen. I would love to maybe get back into the acting world if I can, although I know community theater is quite cliquish. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So I know how hard it is to break in. You and I've talked about it. We're teammates in bowling leagues. I'd love to get into some more tournament action. Got national tournament coming up in the end of June. But had to get my footing a little bit in retirement. I will tell you, it's a scary time with the whole income situation. As you wait for your pension to catch up and start getting, you're really kind of on for 3 months living without any kind of an income. So that's a little scary. And I'd love to do some traveling, and not only see our great country, but also to get around the world a bit. So there's plenty I want to do. There's no fixed schedule. I say to folks, freedom is the key word for me. You have the freedom to do what you want or don't do what you want. And I'm reveling in that right now. Yeah. I'm just really enjoying not feeling pressured to have a plan.
Yeah. And I love how you're taking this whole chapter on your terms and doing it with intention, but at the same time, also having a lot of fun with it. And I know, whomever you speak to, whomever you consult with, you are going to continue to do incredible work just like you did throughout your career, and you are going to continue to help a lot of people. And I'm glad to have a seat to watch it. So
yeah, thank you.
Congrats. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Rich, thank you so very much for being a wonderful guest on the Mid-Career GPS podcast. And more importantly, thank you for being a friend.
Appreciate that. You too.
All right. We'll talk to you later. All right.
Take care.
My friends, if there's one big takeaway I want you to take from my conversation with my friend Rich, it's this. Think about the quote he shared from Hamilton. Be in the room where it happens. If you want to increase your visibility, if you want to build your professional legacy, if you want to show up with more intention in your career, it gets a little scary. You got to find a way to speak up, to show up, to put yourself in those kind of situations. Increase your visibility. Be your biggest champion. Be your greatest advocate. So until next time, my friends, remember this. You will build your mid-career GPS 1 mile or 1 step at a time, and how you show up matters. Make it a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. Make sure to follow on your favorite listening platform. And if you have a moment, I'd love to hear your comments on Apple Podcasts. Visit johnnarrow.com for more information about how I can help you build your mid-career GPS, or how I can help you and your organization with your next workshop or public speaking event. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow me on social at John Narrow Coaching. I look forward to being back with you next week. Until then, take care, and remember, how we show up matters.